His laugh echoed through the courtroom, cutting into my chest like a knife. Brendan actually laughed. Right there in front of the judge, in front of everyone. My husband of 8 years threw his head back and laughed at me. His lawyer had just finished explaining why I was an unfit mother. The judge had just given him temporary full custody of our 2 children. And Brendan Holloway, the man I had given everything to, leaned toward me and whispered that I would be lucky to see my kids twice a month, supervised, like I was a criminal, like I was dangerous. Me. The mother who rocked those babies to sleep every night. The one who knew every food allergy, every nightmare, every favorite bedtime story. That mother was now being treated like a threat. And my husband laughed. My name is Elia Salinas. I was 34 years old when my entire world collapsed in a California courtroom. 34 years old, married for 8 years, mother to Marisol, who was 7, and Theo, who was almost 6, with his birthday just 2 months away. At 34, I suddenly had nothing. No home. No children. No savings. Nothing, except the clothes I was wearing and a used Toyota that made terrifying noises every time I turned the key. My mechanic once told me the car was not broken. It was just expressing itself. I could not afford a second opinion. Let me tell you how I got there. And more importantly, let me tell you what happened next. I met Brendan when I was 25. He was charming and ambitious, moving fast at a tech company in San Diego. I worked as a medical billing specialist at a hospital. Steady, honest work that I was proud of. My parents were immigrants. They taught me that hard work and honesty were all you needed in America. Keep your head down, do your job, treat people right, and everything would work out. I believed that. I truly believed that. Brendan swept me off my feet. Fancy dinners. Weekend trips. He told me I was beautiful, that I was the woman he had been searching for his entire life. We married when I was 26. Marisol was born a year later. Theo followed 2 years after that. Life was good. Life was exactly what I had dreamed it would be. When the kids were little, Brendan suggested I cut back my work hours. Just part-time, he said. The kids need you home more. I can provide for us. I trusted him completely. I thought we were building a future together. So I agreed. I went part-time. I managed the home. I raised our children. I supported his career as he climbed higher and higher. What I did not know was that Brendan had been planning to leave me since before Theo was even born. He gave me an allowance, like I was a teenager. Every month, a fixed amount went into my personal account. That money was supposed to cover groceries, the kids' activities, gas, everything. If I needed more, I had to ask. I had to explain. And I never questioned it. I trusted my husband. My parents had a traditional marriage where my father handled the money. I thought that was just how things worked. I was a fool. A complete fool. If I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would grab her by the shoulders and shake her. But hindsight is perfect, and foresight, apparently, is legally blind. The divorce papers arrived at my workplace. Not at home, where I could cry in private. Not by mail, where I could process it alone. No. A process server walked into the hospital billing department and called my name out loud. My co-workers watched as I was handed the documents that destroyed my life. Brendan did that on purpose. Maximum humiliation. That should have told me exactly who he was. But it still got worse. Much worse. His lawyer painted me as unstable, neglectful, overwhelmed, and incapable of caring for my own children. Every normal moment of exhaustion that every mother feels was twisted into proof that I was unfit. The time Marisol fell off her bike while I was helping Theo. The time I forgot to sign a permission slip. The time I cried at a school event because I was having a hard week. Everything was documented. Everything was saved. Brendan had been building a case against me for 18 months while I was busy loving him and raising our children. And he was not alone. His mother, Constance Holloway, helped him the entire time. She smiled at me across holiday dinner tables while secretly recording every mistake I made. She offered to babysit so she could watch how the kids behaved with me versus without me. She photographed my messy kitchen, my unfolded laundry, my tired face, building a file, building a weapon. Constance was the kind of woman who could find something wrong with a sunrise. Too bright. Too slow. Not enough vitamin D. But the betrayal that broke me the most did not come from Constance. It came from my own blood. My sister, Paloma, testified against me. My baby sister, the one I protected growing up. The one I loaned money to. The one who cried on my shoulder through 3 bad breakups. The one I called my best friend. She sat in. The studio apartment was so small that I had to step outside just to clear my head. A real estate listing would probably call it cozy or efficient. Real estate agents can make a prison cell sound like a spa retreat. 1 room. 1 window. A bathroom where the shower was directly above the toilet because there was not enough space for them to be separate. This was my life now. This was what 8 years of marriage and devotion had earned me. But something happened during that horrible court hearing. Something I almost missed because I was so broken by everything else. It was just a moment, a flicker. Brendan handed a folder to his lawyer. The lawyer quickly slipped it into his briefcase while glancing around the room, as if checking whether anyone noticed. And when the financial disclosure documents were presented, something felt wrong. Brendan's income was listed as $140,000 a year. But I remembered conversations. I remembered him bragging about bonuses and stock options. I remembered a lifestyle that did not match those numbers. At the time, I was too destroyed to think clearly. But a seed had been planted. A small suspicion lodged itself in my mind, and waited. Before we continue, if you are enjoying this story, please subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there. I read every single comment, and they truly mean the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. The weeks after that court hearing were the darkest of my life. Brendan used the custody arrangement like a weapon. Every visit became a battle. I would drive 45 minutes to pick up the kids. When I arrived, Brendan would open the door with an apologetic shrug. "Sorry," he would say. "Marisol woke up with a stomach ache. Better if she stays home today." Or, "Theo has a playdate that just came up. Maybe next weekend." Next weekend. Always next weekend. And when next weekend arrived, there was always another excuse. The few times I did get to see my children, something had changed. Marisol, my bright and talkative little girl, was quiet and distant. She answered my questions with 1 word and spent most of our time together staring at her tablet. Theo was worse. My baby boy clung to me and cried, asking why Mommy left them. Why Mommy did not want to live with them anymore. "Who told you that, baby?" I asked. But I already knew the answer. Brendan was poisoning my children against me. Every night in that house, he filled their heads with lies. Mommy chose to leave. Mommy does not want you. Mommy is sick and cannot take care of you. He was erasing me from their lives, 1 bedtime story at a time. And Constance Holloway made sure everyone knew about it. She treated social media like her personal victory parade. Every other day there was a new post. Photos of her with my children at the zoo, at the beach, at restaurants. #grandma of the year, #blessed, #family first. She had moved into my house to help Brendan, which really meant she had moved in to finish erasing me. I sometimes wondered if she was also teaching my children that passive aggression was a love language. About a month after the court hearing, she sent me a private message. Just a few sentences, but I will never forget them. She wrote that I was never good enough for her son. That everyone could see it except me. That my children deserved better than a mother like me. I stared at those words on my phone for an hour, reading them again and again, wondering if maybe she was right. Meanwhile, Paloma had fully joined the Holloway family. She appeared in Constance's social media posts, smiling in my kitchen, playing with my children in my backyard. She was given gifts. A new car. Her credit card debt was suddenly paid off. Our mother was caught in the middle, heartbroken and confused about how her 2 daughters had ended up on opposite sides of a war. The financial pressure was crushing me. Brendan's lawyer filed motion after motion to delay spousal support. Temporary orders. Continuances. Requests for more documents. Every legal trick possible to keep money out of my hands while I drowned. I worked double shifts at the hospital just to afford rent and food. I stopped eating breakfast and lunch to save money. I told myself it was intermittent fasting for my health. In reality, it was intermittent fasting because my wallet was on life support. I sold my grandmother's gold bracelet, the only piece of jewelry that truly mattered to me, just to make rent 1 month. Then I discovered something else. Brendan had opened credit cards in my name during our marriage. Cards I never knew existed. He had maxed them out and stopped making payments. My credit score was destroyed. I could not get approved for a better apartment, or a car loan, or anything. He had not just taken my present, he had sabotaged my future. Work became another battlefield. About 2 months after the divorce, a new supervisor appeared in my department. Her name was Regina Doyle. From day O, I watched the party through the window like some kind of suburban ghost. I cried the kind of cry where you cannot breathe, where your whole body shakes. The kind of crying that comes from so deep inside you that you did not even know that place existed. Then Brendan saw me. He came outside with his phone already in his hand, already dialing. The police arrived 20 minutes later. The officer was polite but firm. I was not doing anything illegal by parking on a public street, but Brendan had claimed I was stalking and harassing his family. The officer suggested I leave before things escalated. So I left. I drove back to my studio apartment, with its lovely view of a brick wall, and wondered if this was going to be the rest of my life. The following week, Brendan's lawyer filed for a restraining order against me. A restraining order against a mother who just wanted to see her son on his birthday. The paperwork described me as erratic, unstable, and potentially dangerous. It asked that I be banned from coming within 500 feet of the family home, the children's school, and Brendan's workplace. I was about to lose everything. Not just my house and my money, but any chance of ever being a real mother to my children again. Brendan was going to win completely. Or so I thought. That weekend, I went to my mother's house for dinner. She had tried to stay neutral between me and Paloma, but I could see the pain in her eyes. 2 daughters torn apart. Grandchildren she barely saw because she refused to take sides. After dinner, she mentioned she had been cleaning out the garage. She found some boxes of my old things, items I had stored there years ago when Brendan and I moved into our house and ran out of closet space. She asked if I wanted them back or if she should donate everything. I did not feel like going through old memories, but something made me say yes. I loaded 3 dusty boxes into my Toyota and took them back to my tiny apartment. That night, I opened them. I expected old clothes, a few books, maybe forgotten wedding gifts. Instead, I found a plain black external hard drive. I had completely forgotten about it. In the early years of our marriage, when Theo was still a baby, I sometimes helped Brendan with his home office work. I organized receipts, filed documents, and occasionally backed up his computer when he was too busy. I had copied a large group of his files onto that drive as a backup. Then life got hectic. I tossed it into a box and never thought about it again. I almost threw it away. Almost. Something made me plug it into my laptop. What I found changed everything. The hard drive contained thousands of files going back 6 years. Spreadsheets, emails, bank statements, legal documents. At first, I did not understand what I was seeing. The numbers confused me. The language was full of business terms I barely recognized. But the deeper I went, the clearer it became. Brendan had a secret. 6 years earlier, right around the time Theo was born, my husband had created a limited liability company. An LLC with a boring, generic name that meant nothing to me. According to the files, that LLC had been receiving large payments every single month. Consulting fees, the invoices said, transferred directly from his employer. But that money never appeared in our joint accounts. It never showed up on the tax returns I signed. It went somewhere else. I am not a financial expert. Numbers have never been my strength. Once, I balanced my checkbook wrong and accidentally believed I was rich for 3 glorious hours, until reality crushed me. But even I could see something was very wrong. I stayed up all night reviewing files, taking notes, trying to understand how much Brendan had hidden. By morning, I had a rough estimate. Over 6 years, Brendan had funneled at least $850,000 through that LLC. $850,000 I never knew existed. $850,000 never disclosed during our divorce. But that was not even the worst part. I found emails, conversations between Brendan and his lawyer that went back years. Years before he served me with divorce papers. In one email, his lawyer clearly discussed how to keep the LLC hidden during the eventual divorce. The eventual divorce. Brendan had been planning to leave me while I was still nursing his son. While I was waking up at 3 in the morning for feedings, living on no sleep and cold coffee, my husband was planning how to hide money from me. This was not a man who fell out of love. This was calculated, deliberate financial fraud. I needed professional help. But I could barely afford groceries, let alone forensic accountants and high-powered lawyers. I was ready to give up. Knowing the truth did not mean I could use it. Then I remembered someone from work. Her name was Beverly Okonkwo. She worked in a different department now, but years earlier she had been a financial investigator. I had heard she left that career after a vacation home I had never heard of, never seen, never even knew existed. It was worth about $400,000. While I was selling my grandmother's jewelry just to pay rent, my husband was secretly sitting on a vacation condo. 4 bedrooms. A lake view. A hot tub on the deck. The audacity of it made my blood boil. But there was more. The LLC had been sending monthly payments to Constance Holloway, labeled as consulting fees for administrative services. $72,000 over 4 years. Constance Holloway, who had never done administrative work a day in her life. Constance Holloway, who spent her days shopping, posting on social media, and apparently committing tax fraud. These payments were fake. They existed to move money to his mother while creating fraudulent tax deductions. This was not just hiding assets from a spouse. This was family-wide tax fraud. After discovering all this, my relationship with money changed forever. I learned that no matter how much you trust someone, you must always understand your own finances. Now I keep emergency savings in my own name. Money I control completely. Trust is beautiful. Verification is survival. Beverly connected me with a former colleague of hers, a forensic accountant named Harrison Wells. Harrison reviewed the evidence once and agreed to help me on a delayed payment basis. He said cases like mine were exactly why he chose this career. Harrison then introduced me to a family law attorney named Diana Prescott, who specialized in divorce fraud. She worked on contingency in cases like mine. Diana was small, sharp-eyed, and had zero patience for nonsense. She reminded me of a terrier, small, determined, and absolutely unwilling to let go once she had something in her teeth. She reviewed everything Beverly and Harrison had uncovered. She asked at least 50 questions. Then she leaned back in her chair and smiled in a way that made me slightly afraid, but mostly relieved. She told me this evidence was not just enough to reopen my case. It was enough to destroy Brendan. Then she said something unexpected. We could not rush into court. We had to be strategic. We needed Brendan to feel safe, to feel confident, to believe he had already won. We needed him to lie under oath about assets he believed no one knew existed. We needed him to commit perjury. We needed to set a trap. For the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt a small flicker of hope. And beneath that hope, something else began to grow. Anger. While Harrison continued tracing the money, he found something else. Credit card statements showing purchases that did not match Brendan's official income. Expensive jewelry I had never received. Hotel bookings in San Francisco on weekends, he claimed to be at conferences. And monthly payments sent to a personal account belonging to a woman named Kendra Whitmore. Harrison traced Kendra. Her social media was private, but one public photo was visible, a pregnancy announcement. 7 months along. Posted 3 weeks earlier. Brendan had a girlfriend. Based on the payment history, he had likely been with her for at least 2 years. And she was pregnant with his child. My husband had stood in court calling me an unfit mother while his mistress carried his baby. He claimed I was unstable while building a secret second life. He laughed at me while betraying me in ways I was only beginning to understand. 8 months ago, this revelation would have broken me. The woman I was becoming simply added it to the file. Another piece of evidence. Another nail in his coffin. Diana Prescott laid out the plan. We would file a motion to modify custody. We would also file a motion to set aside the original divorce judgment due to fraud. But our first move had to look weak. Routine. Desperate. Easily defeated. We wanted Brendan to believe this was my final attempt before giving up forever. Then we would spring the trap. Diana explained that Brendan's greatest weakness was arrogance. He believed he was the smartest person in every room. He believed he had hidden everything perfectly. He believed I was broken, beaten, and too stupid to fight back. We were going to use that arrogance against him. The first step was making our legal filing look pathetic. Diana wrote a custody modification request filled with emotion, not evidence. It talked about how much I missed my children, how the arrangement hurt them emotionally, how I deserved another chance. It read like a desperate plea from a woman with nothing left but feelings. Exactly what Brendan expected. The second step was harder. I had to act defeated. Diana coached me on what to say if I ran into anyone connected to Brendan. I casually mentioned that I might move back to Texas to be closer to extended family. That California held too many painful memories. I let this slip to my mother, knowing she would tell Paloma. Knowing Paloma would tell Brendan. I practiced looking defeated in the bathroom mirror so many times. I included evidence of Regina's connection to Constance Holloway. Social media photos showed them together at charity events. I also included a screenshot of Constance thanking Regina for being such a wonderful friend during difficult family times. The message was clear. Regina was not just a bad supervisor. She was part of a coordinated harassment campaign. Human Resources took it seriously, very seriously. Within 2 weeks, Regina Doyle was quietly transferred to another department across town. My hours were restored. My schedule stabilized. It was a small victory, but it taught me something important. I could fight back. And I could win. Regina probably thought she was untouchable because of her powerful friends. Turns out powerful friends do not matter much when you leave a paper trail of workplace violations a mile long. Next came the restraining order hearing. Brendan's lawyer painted me as an unstable woman who stalked her own family on a child's birthday. Diana presented evidence showing that Brendan had been systematically denying my legal visitation for months. She showed that his harassment claims were actually attempts to control and punish me for trying to see my own children. The judge reviewed the evidence and dismissed the restraining order request. Brendan looked annoyed, but not worried. He still believed he was winning the war. Then came the deposition. For those who don't know, a deposition is when lawyers ask questions under oath before trial. Everything said is recorded and can be used later in court. Diana scheduled Brendan's deposition as part of the custody modification process. She told him it was routine. Standard procedure. Brendan arrived wearing an expensive suit, accompanied by an expensive lawyer, carrying the confidence of a man who thought he was untouchable. His lawyer was probably billing $500 an hour just to sit there and look impressive. Diana started with gentle questions. Easy questions. She asked about Brendan's income, his assets, his finances. Did he own any businesses or have interests outside his main job? No, Brendan said. Just my salary and standard benefits. Did he own any property besides the family home? No, he said. Just the Oceanside house. Did he have any financial relationships with family members? Any payments or transfers? No, Brendan said. Nothing like that. Every answer was a lie. Every answer was perjury. And every word was recorded, documented, and certified. Brendan's lawyer looked bored throughout the deposition. He had not prepared because he didn't think he needed to. He didn't know about the hard drive. He didn't know about Beverly or Harrison. He didn't know his client had just destroyed himself under oath. After the deposition, Diana and I reviewed the recording together. She had the look of a cat that had just cornered a very fat mouse. We have him, she said. Completely. Now all that remained was the final battle. But first, there was one more thing I needed to do. If this story is resonating with you, please hit the subscribe button. Your support truly means more than you know. I went to see Paloma. Not at her apartment, where she could ignore me. I found her at a coffee shop we used to visit together, back when we were actually sisters. She looked up from her phone and saw me. Her face cycled through about 15 emotions in 2 seconds. I sat down across from her without asking. I pulled out my phone. I showed her the emails. The emails where Brendan and his colleague discussed how to use her. The emails where they called her a useful idiot. Those exact words. The emails where they laughed about how easy she was to manipulate. The emails where her boyfriend promised to leave her once he got his promotion, when she was no longer useful. Paloma broke. Not quiet tears. Ugly, shaking sobs. Snot. Miss. She kept saying she was sorry over and over. I didn't want her apology. I wanted her to understand. I told her she testified against her own sister for a man who was using her. I told her she helped take children away from their mother for dinner reservations and a leased car. I told her our grandmother would be ashamed. That last part hit her like a physical blow. Then I gave her a choice. She could keep lying and pretending everything was fine. Or she could tell the truth. She could sign an affidavit. Admit she was coached. Pressured. Promised rewards for her testimony. Try to make things right. Paloma chose the truth. 2 days later, I had her sworn affidavit. It detailed exactly how Brendan and his lawyer prepared her testimony, what to say, what to emphasize, and how they promised her boyfriend would stay if she cooperated. It was devastating evidence of witness tampering. And it was going to blow their case apart. The week before the hearing, Diana and I finalized everything. We had the forensic accounting report showing every hidden dollar. We had property records for the Lake Tahoe condo. We had bank stat. The judge looked directly at Brendan. She told him she hoped he understood the consequences of his choices. She said he had not only committed serious financial crimes, but had also tried to destroy the bond between his children and their mother. In her experience, she said, people who behaved the way he had rarely found happiness because they carried their dishonesty with them wherever they went. Then she adjourned the hearing. I stood up on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Diana shook my hand and told me we had one. Harrison Wells nodded with quiet, professional approval, but I could barely absorb any of it. 8 months of fighting. 8 months of having nothing. 8 months of crying alone in a tiny studio apartment with a view of a brick wall. And now it was over. As I walked toward the exit, Brendan finally spoke. He asked if we could work something out. His voice was small and uncertain, nothing like the confident man who had laughed at me in this same courtroom 8 months earlier. He said we could find a reasonable compromise. He said he would give me whatever I wanted if we could keep this out of criminal court. I did not respond. I did not even look at him. I kept walking. My children were waiting in the hallway with my mother. The court had arranged for them to be brought from school so they could leave with me immediately. Marisol saw me first. She froze, unsure. In that moment, I understood how much damage Brendan's lies had caused. 8 months of being told that Mommy left them. 8 months of being taught to doubt me. Then Theo saw me. He ran straight into my legs, hitting me so hard I almost lost my balance. Mommy, he asked, are we going home with you? Yes, baby, I told him. We are going home. Marisol walked toward me slowly, still cautious. When I knelt down and opened my arms, she stepped forward. She buried her face in my shoulder and whispered that she knew I had not left them. She knew Daddy had been lying. She had known all along but did not know how to say it. I held both my children in that courthouse hallway and cried for the first time since this nightmare began. But these tears were different. They were not tears of pain. They were tears of relief. Tears of victory. Tears of a mother who had fought through everything to bring her children home. After that, everything unraveled quickly. Kendra Whitmore left Brendan within a week of the hearing, once she realized the money was gone and criminal charges were coming. Apparently, love only lasts as long as the credit card works. Constance Holloway received her own letter from the IRS regarding the fraudulent consulting payments. The last I heard, she deleted all of her social media accounts. No more #blessed. Brendan's lawyer withdrew from the case and faced his own bar investigation for possibly helping conceal the fraud. And Brendan himself? The last update I saw was on his dating profile. It said he was going through some life changes. I suppose that is technically accurate, if you count losing everything and facing potential prison time. 3 weeks after the hearing, I stood in the doorway of my home. My home. The home I had lost, and won back. I watched my children playing in the backyard. The same yard where I taught Marisol to ride a bike. The same yard where I pushed Theo on the swing for hours. My mother was in the kitchen making dinner. Paloma was there too, carefully trying to rebuild what she had broken. We were not okay yet. The trust between my sister and me would take years to repair, if it ever could be fully repaired. But we were trying. Family is complicated. Forgiveness is harder. We were taking it one day at a time. The sun set over Oceanside, painting everything in gold and pink. I thought about the woman I had been a year earlier. The woman who trusted without question. The woman who believed control was love. That woman was gone. The strongest revenge is not destroying the person who hurt you. The strongest revenge is rebuilding everything they tried to take and making it better than they ever imagined. Brendan Holloway had laughed at me in court. He had told me I would never see my children again. He believed he had already won. He was wrong. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most powerful stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. I'll see you in the next one.